for today, we're going to be going over your x-rays. We call them radiographs. So if I say those words interchangeably, that's what I'm talking about. First thing I have for you is the radiology notification form. And so this is specifically from our dentist stating all the things that he confirmed that we found in your mouth. So we talked about it some, but he's able to diagnose. So that's why we have a letter for you. So you'll actually get to take that home with you today. And really the main thing that he discovered was mild gum loss. And so we also went over that whenever we went over your perio information, whenever we were measuring your gum health. Do you remember us doing that? Okay. So whenever I called out the 1s, 2s, and 3s, those were all positive numbers that indicated that you would have healthy areas of bone. But then whenever we had 4s, 5s, 6s, that's where we had some disease or inflammation. So I'm going to pull that up really quick, just so we can review that. And so really it seems like we've got it mostly in the back area. So on those molars, that's where we have either some recession or we have some bone loss. And we can also see that on the x-rays too. So looking here, we're seeing like a little bit, like the bone should hug the crown of the tooth very closely. And so whenever you see it, like we call it a radiolucent or a radiocake area. So radiolucent means that you can see through it. Yeah, so if you see that radiolucent area, that means that we have some bone loss. There's some other things that can indicate the bone loss too. There's another anatomical structure called the dura, and that dura has like a thick outer layer right near the gum line. Like it's below because it's where the bone is, but it again hugs that crown closely, and usually it's thicker. But when it's blunted like this, that can be an indicator too that we have some bone loss. We also usually see it very commonly on these front teeth on the bottom, and so that's another area where we found some things. Let's look at that charting again, see what we found here. So there, you have some recession here in the front, but we also had some different probing depths when we took that instrument and measured as well. Do you have any specific questions that you are like, hey, what's that? Or could that be a cavity or anything that comes to mind for you? No. Okay. Well, the good news is there are no cavities based on what dentist has diagnosed, so that's exciting. But some things I can note out to you are areas where you have had those restorations or the fillings in the past. And so here's one right here. When we see that opaque area, that's going to be an amalgam filling. And I can confirm that because I saw it in your mouth too. So we see the one over here, and then the one over here, so on those molars. And then I know based on what we talked about and also what I've seen, you have them on the cheek surface too. So you have one on the biting surface or the occlusal surface, and then you have another one on the buccal surface or the cheek surface. So that was kind of interesting to see. You also have something that's really difficult to see in this because it's not as radiopaque, and that's going to be a composite filling. And so that's on this little tooth right here, this premolar tooth. And you can tell because it looks a little bit different than your typical enamel. So the typical enamel, let me zoom in on this.
Can you not see this one at all?
I'll show you. I have one image where you can, but it's really hard to see. I didn't get a great picture.
So this is not.
That's going to be actually, so you can barely see it, but this right here, because it's right at the gum line, right? So you can see just that little bit of something right there. If I would have gotten a better picture, we could see it really well, but that's as good as I got. But the typical enamel structure, let me see if I can zoom in. Okay. It's going to be very intact. So we're looking at very thick enamel that goes through, and also it's just uniform and symmetrical. So we know that's enamel, and if it had a cavity, it would have like a little shady gray area in there. So whenever it comes down here to that composite, it's not like this is the typical and how it kind of just follows the curvatures of the tooth. Whereas your composite, whoop, it zoops out like that. So that's kind of a neat thing too. So we see a composite there. Another thing to know on your x-rays is the calculus. And what calculus is tartar, so the hard buildup that's under your gums. And that's really a very important reason why you come to see me as a hygienist, because that's something you just can't remove at home. So this calculus, it looks kind of like little spurs, and we see it throughout your teeth, especially in those back teeth, and it usually accumulates very commonly here in the front, where I see a little bit. When I was in your mouth, we could see it above the gum line too, and so we call that supracalculus because it's above. But then if it's below, we call it subcalculus. Also, something I thought about was you had your wisdom teeth removed. So it's really fascinating on individuals that haven't had them removed. They're going to be right here at the end of the teeth. And sometimes, most of the time, they're not going to come in straight like these other teeth. They usually they'll push on the teeth and go in crazy directions. And it's so important that those individuals get them out, which that might have been the case for you since you had yours removed, because they can affect the alignment of all of the teeth, and also they can potentially get impacted and affected and have just general oral health issues because you don't get them out. So good for you for getting them out a long time ago. I guess we'll go back to our perio assessment again, so the gum health. Because that's the biggest thing that we're focusing on with you since you have the mild bone loss, is how can we help that, and how can we not necessarily prevent it, because once you have gum disease, it's irreversible and you can't get that bone back. But we can arrest it or stop it. So that's our main goal, is you came in, we're gonna get that tartar out, the calculus, from underneath your gums, and then it's gonna kind of open up a little bit more of a pocket that maybe you didn't know was there in some areas, but it's kind of like a splinter. It's gonna be uncomfortable, and it's gonna have some inflammation once we get it out at first, but then it's gonna heal up, and even that depth will hopefully improve and won't be as deep. So that's kind of exciting.
Well, I've noticed that since you did this side of my mouth, less bleeding.
I wanted to ask you about that, so that's really exciting. So you'll see that was what was cool about at least stopping in the half, is you can really see a difference, like from one half to the other.
Oh, definitely.
That's very cool. Because before, just like it says on your perio assessment, you had 47 bleeding sites, and so I'm sure that that's reduced significantly, and we'll be able to see that more as we get into the other half of your mouth too. What we classified for the periodontitis at the time was stage 3, grade C periodontitis. And so what that's indicating, we have kind of a breakdown on the back, is we had greater than or equal to 5 millimeter depths. We also had you have a little bit of vertical bone loss, which when we have, so there's vertical and horizontal bone loss. Horizontal is when it just drops, like the bone just drops straight down, and that's mostly what we see in your images, so that's good. There's little bits of vertical. What I see is if it's like completely black like this, that bone's lost on both sides. If it's a little bit like, it's just a little more radiolucent, then it's only lost on one side and not necessarily the other side. So that's kind of something cool that you can see on the image. Also with the grade C that we have accounted for, we know that we're seeing more rapid bone loss, and that's what that vertical bone loss can indicate, is it's just more rapid and occurring more fast. So cleaning up everything is going to help tremendously to slow that
Now
down.
you said you could have, so how do y'all tell if it's 2 millimeters over 5 years?
Usually it's like patient asking questions. So for you haven't been to the dentist in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So we know based on risk factors. So it can be like, are you smoking? Just how are you taking care of your teeth? Do you have any systemic diseases?
Gotcha.
Things like that. But if you're someone that is consistently coming in every 3 months or every 4 months, within your state that you are in, we do recommend that you come in every 3 months just to have the perio maintenance or the maintenance of the gum disease. But so for that patient, because you just have a consistent history with them. But so we'd start from square one, not looking back, moving forward, and just kind of figure out, okay, where we're at. So just some little areas. So, and those can be the areas that are catching food more, and bacteria is sitting there longer, and then it just becomes more dangerous for the oral biome. More than anything, you have your enamel structure. Underneath the enamel, you have dentin, which is kind of a soft, cushy material, and then inside that you have your pulp. And so whenever the pulp, it like houses all the nerves and all those things, when that gets disturbed, that's whenever people can have some sharp pains and need root canals, that kind of thing. But thankfully, you haven't had that issue, and you really don't have a strong presence or history of cavities. So it's really great that you're taking care of your teeth, and that you really just focus at the gum line, how to take care of those teeth to help with that gum disease. And what I've pulled out are some aids that can help. And you mentioned that you had a water flosser at home. Mm-hmm. And so is it one of these, or is it like this?
I think it's that brand. It's even that brand. It's different than that. But.
Okay. And so whenever you do this, do you mind just demonstrating? So this is my typodont. You'll hold that for me. And so I'm going to let you pretend that's you. Show me how you're doing this at home.
Well, usually I go up and down, and I go through all on one side and go around the gum line.
Okay.
And then flip over and go down the other side.
Perfect. So yeah, I think that's great. And also don't forget, they make some different attachment heads, which I think we have in here. But don't forget to go below the gum line and go like this too, because that's what's really going to clean it out. So it's totally cool that you're doing it this way. Just make sure to go this way as well. So that would be, because you want to get into those pockets.
Yeah, I mean, it's typically angled
Yeah,
down.
so yeah, you got it. And then let me show you some of these
Because I know
attachments.
that's what you can't brush off.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, because it's going to be that plaque. And the sooner you get those soft plaque deposits off, the less hard deposits you're going to have, because the plaque turns into the hard deposits. But they have some different aids that also help whenever you have pockets. Like this is a little interdental aid that can get like specifically deep down in there. So I'm sure your machine may have some of those, but I know sometimes I don't open those little packets because it's like, what is this extra stuff, and I don't want to deal with it. But I would definitely recommend utilizing maybe some of these to get in there, and start on a low setting first, because the higher settings may be uncomfortable. And you don't want to blast too hard at what you're going at. You just need to irrigate it, just rinse it out. So just be gentle with yourself and careful with that, because you can cause some traumatic bleeding, and I don't want you to go through that either. But anyway, be mindful of your little aids that you have, because that can help get deep into those pockets too. The aid that I have at home is this one, which it's totally fine. Like this is, I'm glad you have that. But this one I like because I can just use it in the shower. You just like take the cup off and fill it up and then use it. So I applaud you for not being crazy messy and doing that outside of the sink.
You do close your mouth on it.
Yeah, that's true. See, I need to take some notes from you. I think that is all. Do you have any questions for me about anything or any concerns?
No.
Okay.